Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board meeting, October 12th, 2020. It's a virtual meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and could the clerk please call the roll?
Okay, give me just 1 second. I was checking on Miss Howell. I didn't see her on the line just now.
Okay.
Okay.
There has been a little bit of, I had difficulty connecting, so that should be having the same problem.
Okay. Do you want to wait a moment, or you want to go ahead and just get started with the roll?
Let's get started with the roll, because that takes a little bit. Maybe she'll be able to check in with us.
Sure thing. Overman,
Here.
Rosenwasser,
Here.
Burton. Looks like she's absent.
Okay. Right now. Okay. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Can you please mute your line if you're not speaking?
Yeah, everybody please mute your line until your name is called for roll call, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Donahue,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Mr. Powell. Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Councilman Goods,
Here.
Combs, Sarah Combs. I see her on the line. She's just muted. Oh, okay. David Hollis. Looks like he's absent. Karen Jackson Sims.
Here.
Okay, and then county staff, we have Nancy Takemori.
I'm here.
Okay, and we're just waiting on Cheryl Howell. And I don't see Lott on the line as well, Mayor Lott. I don't see him.
Kimberly, you are muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay, well, good. You didn't need to hear any of that anyway. We actually have a good agenda today, and hopefully Ms. Howell can join us soon. We do have 15 minutes set aside for public comment. I have not actually received an email indicating that we have anybody on the line for that. Mr. Brewer, do you see anyone on the line for public comment?
No, ma'am. We received no submissions this morning.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So if we have a quorum, we have a quorum?
This is Nancy. You do have a quorum,
We do have a quorum. Good. Well, we do have in your board packet, which was sent out to you, as well as you can find it online with the calendar notice, two meetings that occurred in September. The first being the Community Land Trust Subcommittee, and that occurred on September 8th, 2020. If everyone's had an opportunity to review those minutes, especially those that attended the meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move.
I have a motion by Sarah Combs, and I believe a second by Sherry Donahue. We're getting some really bad feedback, so please mute if you're not speaking. And with that, I'd like to take a roll on the motion to approve the Community Land Trust Subcommittee minutes. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Overman.
Here. Yes, sorry.
Rosenwasser.
Yes.
Donahue.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Combs.
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The second set of minutes for approval are the regular board meeting minutes of September 14th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved. I'll make a motion.
Okay, I believe I heard Goods and seconded by Cody Powell. Please take a roll call vote, please.
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Combs,
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Is Natasha on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Could you reach out to Miss Howell and see if she's having difficulty logging in?
Yes, I've reached out. She'll be joining shortly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is chair updates, so I'll just keep talking until she shows up because she's after me. But I do want to bring to your attention several things that are happening. The good news is we are moving forward on several of the RFPs. They're moving forward. I had a terrific meeting with Hope, with the organization on Friday to get prepared for their annual meeting. They've invited me as a county commissioner, but also as the chair of affordable housing, actually to speak at that event. If you want to know why we do what we do, attending that virtual meeting on October 27th, I believe, is the date. It's a Monday evening. It'll be a virtual event. We'll make sure that you have an opportunity to get the link to either visit or watch the convention. But it's an excellent meeting with all of our advocates that are working so hard to help people get placed in homes, but also as a strong advocate for affordable housing in Hillsborough County. Good morning, Ms. Howell. It's good to see you. We were worried about you. The other items that are on my agenda, you'll hear later that we're going to suspend the community land trust meetings because we did get an allocation approved through the budget process for establishing or developing a relationship with a consulting firm to assist us in standing up a community land trust process. The Community Land Trust did a great job of going through the various issues. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we did the best job of setting up the best opportunity to be successful in setting up a community land trust. So that was approved by the Board of County Commission, and you'll hear more about that in a later meeting. The other item is that we did receive a letter of resignation from Adam Hardin. Adam Hardin was our appointee by the HART Board to attend these meetings to bring issues associated with transit and transportation planning and TOD as it relates to transportation planning to our board. HART is aware of that, and they'll be making an appointment at a later date. The other item is many of you may know that the governor did extend our virtual meetings through the month of October. However, it did indicate that we would start having in-person meetings after November 1st. Hopefully that will change, but it's not at the moment, so we're doing planning accordingly. That brings something to my attention that I wanted to address. It is very important, vitally important, that all of our members notify the affordable housing staff, Natasha, as well as Ms. Howell, whether or not you're able to attend these meetings. There is a mandatory attendance, and without a short number, I think it's only 2, where you have an excused absence. So it's critically important that we attend these meetings, for starters, because the rule associated with the governor's decision does require that in the future we have a certain number of in-person, we have to have a quorum in person, which if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Takemori, you can confirm this, that's at least 6 physical attendance. Is that correct?
That is correct. You
Okay.
need 6 for a quorum if you have a full board of 11 or once heart, or 10 right now is what you have, but you still need 6 people.
Okay, great. So it'll be very important in the future for those that may not be able to physically attend the meetings. We'll want to make sure that those that can physically attend the meetings are accounted for so that we have a quorum and can move our agenda forward. And so I just want to bring that to your attention. And other than that, we do have a meeting scheduled in November, but I just wanted to bring to your attention the legislature starts their committee meetings in November and December. And so those relationships that you have with our state delegates, whether it be on the Senate or on the House side, need to hear from us on a daily basis if you want, or however you want to do it. But how critically important to our economy, to our citizens, and to our economic growth, and mostly to the social structure with our families, to make affordable housing a priority and to keep it that way. We were fortunate enough this year to have the Sadowski Fund fully funded, although it did change in its funding as COVID arrived, and they moved some of those dollars over more towards a COVID cares facility. But I think it's critically important that we keep the pressure on and make sure that our delegation recognizes that it's vital to the success of Hillsborough County for us to continue our mission of expanding and creating more affordable housing for our citizens. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Cheryl Howell, our Director of Affordable Housing, and for the Director's Report. Cheryl, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And good morning, board. It's so good to be here. I apologize for my technical difficulties. We have a number of things that we're set to go over this morning. I'm sure all of you have received your packages earlier. But the first item on my agenda to go over this morning is the in-person meetings. And we have Ms. Nancy Takemori from our senior assistant. She's the senior assistant county attorney, and she's assigned to Affordable Housing Advisory Board and to all of our activities and agenda items. And so we work very, very closely with Nancy, and she's going to be giving you an update on the in-person meetings.
Good morning. I think Chair Overman has actually pretty fully and accurately covered this subject, but the governor's office has issued a memo indicating they do not intend to extend the emergency management executive order, which suspended the in-person quorum requirement for local government bodies. So we will let you know as soon as we have more information about where our in-person meetings will be taking place starting in November. And you can always reach out to me privately or here today if you have any questions about that, and to Cheryl as well.
Yes, and our staff will be reaching out to the board members to see who can or cannot be present to be able to coordinate those meetings to ensure that we do have a quorum. But before we move on with our next item, I do want to step back for a minute. We have a brand new chair member this morning, and that's Ms. Karen Jackson Sims. And so I would like to extend a warm welcome to Karen, and I'm not sure, I came on a couple of minutes late, if we were able to do this, and just let her share with the other board members for just a minute on her experience and what she hopes to see done on this committee and what our contributions could be. Ms. Sims?
Thank you, Cheryl. It's my pleasure to join this board. I remember when this board was established, not giving away my age, but I was delighted then that the board was established because Hillsborough County had then a tremendous need for affordable housing and continues to. I am the former field office director for the Tampa district of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Your community fell under our review, and I am also the former deputy regional administrator for US HUD. Again, still Hillsborough County falling under my review. Hillsborough County was one of our communities that was selected by the president and the secretary of housing for the intense homelessness award from HUD many years ago. And we established the Homelessness Committee, where your former county administrator, Mike Merrill, came and participated as a member of that committee and said then that he got a lot out of the committee and had not really realized the full extent to homelessness and how far-reaching it was in this community. And from that day forward, I've been very excited to see the outstanding work that's being done to ensure that housing opportunities are being made for everybody, no matter where they fall within the scheme of things in life in our community, because we are a community. And as such, it is our responsibility to be able to care for each other and to ensure that all of us are living the best lives we possibly can. So I'm excited to join you and to bring 33 plus years experience in affordable housing. I do have a master's degree from MIT also in affordable housing, also from the JFK School of Government. So I hope these resources will help our community, and I'm ready to contribute in any way I can. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sims. And let us move on. Are there any questions for Ms. Sims? Or
I would just like to offer a heartily thank you for applying for the position. Ms. Jackson Sims obviously comes with an excellent resume, and it's a testament to all on the board as well as Ms. Howell's leadership that we are blessed with having amazing people on this board. And not to say anything, that you're joining a great group that are committed to actually making a difference. Ms. Jackson Sims' position on the board is a citizen who is actively engaged and advocate for low-income persons in connection with affordable housing. Each of us have a role, and her voice, I'm looking forward to hearing in that area as well as all the other areas that we talk about. But you bring a wide variety of experience to our board, and I thank you for applying and for serving Hillsborough County citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Nope, no other hands. And with that, I'm turning it back over to Cheryl.
Okay, and thank you so much. I'm so very proud of each and every one of our board members. I brag on you guys all the time. And so I'll be moving on. We have had a number of recently approved Board of County Commissioner agenda items. As you can imagine, we have been extremely busy, especially during this pandemic. We had some new funding and all of the administrative requirements that's attached to some of the new funding that we have, and the almost hurriedness to get some of those funds spent. As Commissioner Overman mentioned earlier, we did get some funding from the state of Florida. It's called CRF funding, and it is tied to CARES money, so it has to be directly COVID-19 related. We had spoke generally about it on this Affordable Housing Advisory Board, not the last time, I want to say the time before the last, and looked at the acquisition of a small motel and utilized some of the funding for displacement measures, and we're moving right along with those plans. We have our Affordable Housing Services report that is included with your board packet. And so for any area, whether it's fiscal or compliance or planning, each of our divisions have provided a report to you. I am also happy to report to you that Affordable Housing also sought out a DEO grant to work with a couple of the other departments in the county. And so we've reached that next tier on being able to be awarded. I want to say about $1.5 million for All People's Park. So keep your fingers crossed. We put on our presentation last week for that, and I want to say the staff did an excellent job in their presentation. We had a number of different staff people that was online. We had our very own Ms. Takemori. We had Mr. Dexter Barge, who oversees compliance in parks. We had the parks director online, and of course our own project managers and project planners from this department. And so it was an excellent, excellent presentation, and we're hoping to get that final award from the state. We don't have any real updates on federal, state, or local grant updates. I do want to add that with the CDC's moratorium on eviction, it's increasingly important to know that moratorium on eviction takes action from our residents. They have to actually sign a type of affidavit stating that they cannot pay the rent and submit that to their landlords. If anybody on this board needs a copy of that to pass along, please let me know. But that does take action from the residents, unlike the other moratoriums that were just in place and became activated in and of themselves based on either the governor or the federal government's directive. We have also included in your packet our monthly newsletter. We take pride in our projects. We got so many community partners out in the community. And we just try to give you a few examples of what we're doing and how your decision impacts the end user out in the community. And so from the end user to you, I just want to extend a thank you for your support, for your creativity, for your advocacy, and everything that you do in the affordable housing arena. And I will now turn it back over to Commissioner Overman or entertain any questions.
Madam Chair, Councilman Goose, for the yes.
Yes, yes, sir. Councilman Goods.
You're recognized, Councilman Goods.
Thank you. Can you have Natasha send a copy of that application to my office so we can get some calls in reference to local eviction?
Excellent. Yeah. We'll get that out. I honestly, Cheryl, it'd probably be great to send it out to everyone.
Okay.
I know that I am actively working with Councilman Luis Vieira and Representative Fentress Driscoll on putting together a community listening tour or a meeting towards the end of the month to really address those that are in trouble when it comes to rent. I also want to commend our staff that has worked so hard on rolling out the R3 programs. Many people may not know this, but Cheryl Howell's had her fingers in it the entire time, helping people move many of those agenda items and programs forward. R3 is related to both business owners, individuals that are in difficulty with paying their rents, and also utilities. It also has a program that is assisting our daycare centers and nonprofits to help them not only be prepared for serving their citizens, but also to manage the impacts of COVID and what that's doing to our economy. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because the deadline, I believe, for the business-related support programs to apply is December 1st, and all of these resources are available to Hillsborough County businesses and citizens through December 31st. So it is critically important that those that are eligible for these programs apply, get their application in, and take advantage of it as quickly as possible. While the governor has stayed rescinded the eviction process for residents and never had it for businesses, but for residents, the CDC option is available. But as Ms. Howell mentioned, you have to actually act. So I would encourage all of you that have an audience with tenants and landlords, whether it's single family or multifamily, is to take advantage of the forms and the brochures that are available on the Hillsborough County website that give information about the benefits that are available to citizens that have been impacted by COVID. Because we want to make sure that we use every single penny of those dollars because we're going to need it. Given the current circumstances, we do not have an additional funding sources for after the first of the year. So we do need to make sure people are shored up as much as possible until then, as we look for ways that we can continue to assist individuals that are impacted by COVID. With that, are there any other future business items that people would like to discuss?
Madam Chairman, it's Mark Wasser. I'd like to be recognized.
Go right ahead.
Last meeting, we spoke about the rent payment assistance under the CARES. What's the current status of funds in those programs?
Let me see if I can't locate that information. I will look for that while someone else asks a question.
I want to say, Mr. Rosenwasser, that they're scheduled to spend about $30 million as it states right now. So the applications have slowed down some, but the social services department is slated to expend $30 million for that activity.
My second question is, I got a call from a developer looking for large parcels to develop for affordable housing. And is it possible for your office to send me a list of those that were included in that, specifically that were included in that presentation last month?
Right, and so all of the properties that we have are included in that list, Mr. Rosenwasser, with the folio number, which would include the acreage and all of those things as well, sir.
I will look it up. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And to answer your question, Mr. Rosenwasser, I have a report that was sent to me on October 2nd, so it's a little dated, but it'll give you some idea of what the process looks like. In the area of utility and housing assistance, that week we paid out $1.7 million to residents for a total of $10.4 million in housing and electric assistance paid to 2,275 residents within Hillsborough County. These benefits are available to both city and county residents. So
yes.
If you're living in the city, you're still eligible to apply. Now, there was some misconception because we had actually funded the city for this program and they were helping us with it through the pass-through on the CARES dollars. But bottom line, if you have not applied and you have a loss of income, a reduction of income, or caring for someone that has had COVID or have had it yourself, you should apply if you're having difficulty meeting your bills. In addition to that, TECO has suspended its disconnection services, so it's critically important that those that need utilities assistance that we take advantage of those resources. 190 applications were being reviewed at the time for eligibility and awards. There were 2,314 applications still in the process of being paid by the clerk, and a lot of that's been cleared out, obviously, since then. The average payment for housing assistance was $4,496, which is about 4 months worth of housing assistance, and we had set aside an eligibility of 5 months worth of benefit available to those that needed it. The average electric payment was $241. And so about 31% of the approved applications included both housing and electric assistance. Now, granted, that's a little dated, but we will be receiving at the next meeting, next Board of County Commission meeting, an update on the CARES meeting. And I've asked if it's possible to focus on the eviction and affordable housing and the rental assistance program as being the agenda item. I haven't gotten approval of that yet, but it's in, the request is in, because I know many people are very interested in finding out how we're helping our citizens and how to tap that and how it's going. So I anticipate seeing that come soon. Cheryl?
Commissioner, I just want to say it is in the works.
Okay,
So.
all right, great. Any other questions or comments? Future business items? Sir, you recognized?
I know that Commissioner Miller had and the board had allocated dollars to help out the folks in Tampa Parks. I just wonder if Ms. Howell could give a brief little update of what's going on there. I know there's some issues in the paper, and I'm hoping that those things have been kind of worked out or dying down. If she can give like a brief update on that.
Yes, sir. I can tell you that very, very closely with Salida's House and with Tampa Park to help to get the tenants placed into some type of permanent housing. We face several different, I want to say, uphill in this process. So we're dealing with a number of different issues in terms of
What they put on the 9th report goes to that scheduler.
Okay, someone has their mic open that's not Ms. Howell who's speaking. Okay, let's try that again. Mr. Good, Councilman Goods, are you still on the line?
I'm still on line. I couldn't
great.
hardly hear the issue.
Cheryl, do you want to repeat that? Yeah, she's breaking up too.
With Salida's House and Tampa Park Apartments to get the tenants placed. We're facing some uphill battles in terms of placement. One is simply the housing market itself. We're dealing with a very, very tight housing market with people not moving in with the moratorium in place. And so those openings that will come up in some of our apartment complexes simply are not coming up right now because people are not moving. The other issue that we're facing is the sheer lack of income of some of the residents. And so some of the residents are only getting $400, $500, $700 a month. And so they were able to continue to stay at Tampa Park because after the Section 8, the project-based Section 8 was removed, they still allowed them to stay there and pay whatever their portion was, whether their portion was $150 or $200 a month or whatever it was. And so as you and I both know, that that is virtually impossible to get a place to stay for $150 or $200 a month unless you're getting into a subsidized rental unit. And so I want to say most of those units are running anywhere between 98% to 100% occupancy. And anybody that's in the multifamily industry know that that's extremely high. That means that people are either not moving at all, or when they do, they're coming in, stripping out those carpets, doing the cleaning and getting them turned around in a couple of days. And so those are some of the issues that we're facing, along with credit and criminal histories. And so we don't set the suitability, but what we are doing, we do set the standard of excellence. in terms of customer service. And so I not only have Salida's house that's down on the ground right now at Tampa Park, but we also have Hillsborough County Affordable Housing staff that's slated to be there as well. So Tampa Park Apartments did agree to allow us to use a very large conference room. And so we're social distancing. We have everything set up. Notices have been put out. And so it's all boots on the ground, trying to get all of the people placed that we could possibly get placed. And so just an FYI, we're helping with up to 3 months of rent. So that's deposit assistance, utility transfer, and up to 3 months of rental assistance for the residents.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I know you guys are working hard. I know there's been some issues and challenges, and even right now, even with the help that you may be able to get, there's still going to be some difficulties for some of those folks, especially when you're talking about the affordability, what they're bringing in, and also possibly some with some maybe criminal history. So there's still going to be some challenges, but we can still try to find a way, and hopefully I've asked Ms. Hart to, Senator Lusson, look at some legislation, because a lot of this is, when you're dealing with people who've had a criminal history, it is like 20, 25 years, sometimes they're still being, the foot on the neck a little bit. So we still got some challenges and some hurt. Again, I thank you and your staff for what you're doing.
I want to say, too, that I met with several of the nonprofits and for-profit developers last week. Sarah Combs was on that call, because many of our nonprofits are providers of affordable housing, and they have the ability to look at some of the suitability terms a little bit different and provide some flexibility with it. So we've seen a little bit of movement on that part. I want to say that one of our developers did offer some money to the Metropolitan Ministries to help out with some transitional. And so we've seen some creative things. We have not seen anything happen widespread, because most of our developers, for-profit or nonprofit, are still running at about 98, 99, some even 100% occupancy. And so when they start to look, they might be down for a day, or they're having to deal with waiting list issues, because as you know, in the affordable housing industry, if you have a wait list, you have to abide by that wait list as well. So to offer full access for everybody that is seeking affordable housing. And so I just want to say, I commend my staff and all of the efforts from all of the entities and all of the support that we've been given in over time. And so it's difficult, but I tell people, if it was easy, everybody'd do it.
Thank you, Ms. Al. Cody Powell, you're recognized.
Can I make a comment, please?
I saw Cody. Is that Miss Burton?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Good morning. I didn't realize you were there, but Cody, could you hold on just 1 second, because I can see you. I can't see Miss Burton. Miss Burton, you're recognized.
Yes. Thank you so much, and I'll be so happy when we have in-person meetings, because trying to find you has been difficulty. But nonetheless, I wanted to thank Mrs. Howell for her going beyond the scope of her work of reaching out to these families in Tampa Park. I have been very, very disappointed in the lack of response from the city. Everybody know that this day was coming. And so now that it's here, it seems to be like it's being dumped in one direction. And although, through history, we've gone past this thing called redlining to be confronted now with a new lining that is based on a number of things, whether it be lack of availability, people's past history, or credit. A lot of those families over there is going to be hard pressed to finding anything within their economic reach. And so what I am hoping is to see quick, new, creative ideas that will help these people in the long run. So for the short term, we can give them some extended stay. For the long term, they're going to need housing. A lot of the people in that community is frightened to go into some of the extended stays because they know once they leave that structure, then the extended stay might not last beyond the 3 or 4 months. And on the back end of this, we still have other complexes that is going to be doing the same identical thing in terms of selling their properties and moving vast amount of people to be faced and confronted with these same issues. And so I am hoping that the city step up and take on greater responsibility financially, assistance for the family. But I don't know, and I wanted to pose this, the possibility, and I don't know if I'm running ahead, but the possibility of using resources. I know the money coming down for COVID and rental assistance is one thing, but is there another pool of money in which Mrs. Howell will be able to tap into that will be able to assist these families beyond the 3 months? So that's my question.
Ms. Howell, would you like to address her question?
Absolutely. I'm prepared for that. I want to say that, yes, in some cases, and I want to say with some limitations, but we certainly can't do it without the city. The money that's coming down from the state and from the federal government is limited to unincorporated Hillsborough County, simply because the city is an entitlement area as well. So the city gets ESG funds. The city also gets home funds, and they get CDBG funds, and they get state SHIP funds when funds are distributed, just as the county does. And so we are prohibited from spending the money in each other's jurisdiction unless it's for a public facility type project that would bring a benefit to people inside and outside of those particular entities. And so, and then sometimes we still have to get approval from those funding agencies to do that. And so I want to emphasize that absolutely there are some things that we can do, but primarily with the HOPE funds. And so the Board of County Commissioners has the flexibility to make changes or recommendations or directives with the HOPE funds as they perceive necessary, unlike it is with the federal government where you have to get permission to do things that's outside of the regular normalcies. And so I also want to say that sometimes the request is not just outside of activities, but it's outside of regulations. And so it does take a real act of Congress in order, and that's not a joke, but it takes a real act of Congress in order to get approval to do those things. But yes, there is some funding. Of course, it's limited, and so we have to look at what the most urgent issues are and the most pressing issues of our residents while we balance out the long-term needs as well that cannot be ignored, and so we have an issue right now. I want to say Ms. Burton brought up this issue of community assets and the threat and loss of community assets within our low-mod communities, and that's something that that's important for us to be looking at. We've been faced with a number of multifamily complaints about quality of living. And that's something that we have to look at as an Affordable Housing Advisory Board. We also are looking at quality of living for for old housing in certain parts of our community where we know that it's certain areas in our community where the houses were built in the 50s and the 60s, and they may be dealing with mold, or they may be dealing with poor air quality on the AC systems or roofing. And so if, it would be cheaper to go in there and put in a new roof and put in a new AC system and some of those things to be able to extend and expand them being able to live in their housing for a period of time, a lot cheaper than it would cost us to even build one affordable housing apartment, which typically comes in around, I want to say anywhere between $185,000 to $210,000 each. That's the cost of an affordable housing apartment. And so I want to say it's several things that can be done, but all players need to be at the table with a plan and with funding as well. And so I want to say, I think that's critically important as we move forward, that we can't just dictate and depend on one another to carry it out, that we have to begin toting the water because this is a crisis for all of us, for all of our citizens.
Right there, absolutely correct as well. Mr. Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to, I'm not sure if this is maybe a question for you, Commissioner Overman, or for Ms. Takemori, but the situation with the Tampa Park where the residents were moving out, to me, that seems like that's a situation where the owners there are moving those people out so they can eventually close, on that land and deliver that, clear. But what I think they've done there is just absolutely terrible. And it's just wrong on every level. And is there some sort of county ordinance that's in place, or maybe we could establish some sort of ordinance that would, in the future, if an owner, does something, like that, that they have to pay some sort of hefty fine, because I think that that's a situation that we're going to continue to, to see. It's almost, to me, they're like, well, we'll just, we'll ask for forgiveness versus asking for permission. And that's not really, the way to do that. And now I think that, three legal services, they're going to be inundated with, trying to help, these people try to, sort through whatever their legal, rights and remedies, will be. But that's going to take, a really long time to, sift through the court system, and they may not even be heard until next year. So not that that's going to help anyone right now, but we can certainly learn from it and try to prevent something like this, from the future, to where, if any landowner, any landlord, does something like this that's so egregious and just wrong, they have to pay some sort of hefty fine. And I'm thinking like $10,000, like something to where it is so hefty that they would never consider doing this ever again.
Ms. Takemori,
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear your question, Chair Overman, but I'm not aware of anything that's currently in place. And again, this is in the city of Tampa, and the county doesn't have any funding in this project. So the funding that we are providing through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is actually going directly to Salita's House, which is the nonprofit. So that doesn't give us a mechanism for enforcement through the funding that we may have. So I am certainly not an expert in eviction law and have not in specific been asked to research this issue. And I don't know if a county ordinance in this case would even pertain to a property within the limits of the city of Tampa. So, I mean, it's something that certainly could be explored if it was found that the property owner wasn't abiding by the procedures that are set into law for eviction. But it's something that we just have to explore further. And again, I'm not sure that our jurisdiction would even have covered this property. So.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, technical difficulty there. I wasn't intending for our jurisdiction to, be for Tampa Park, for the city of Tampa. I'm merely thinking about, in the future down the road, having something that only applies, to like the unincorporated, areas and everything like that. Thank you, baby. Sorry, I have a little one at home. So I just trying to think, and preparing for, down the road, if there's something that we can do to try to, prevent this, from happening. And then maybe, if the city of Tampa, wants to adopt whatever we do, that's certainly fine. That's their business. But, at least for us, we can take care of, our own and try to, thwart this from, potentially happening, down the road again, because this isn't going to come up again. Someone's going to do it again.
Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Powell. I appreciate it. Councilman Goods, you're recognized.
I've already kind of asked about that situation the gentleman's talking about. The problem you have is private land ownership. Florida is very stringent and has a lot of rules as it pertains to private ownership. So that's something our legislative branch or our legislative liaisons may need to deal with. Tallahassee, maybe changing some rules as it relates to these type of situations. But at a local level or county, I don't think you would have the power, from what I've heard, to be able to enact a law like this. So I think they'll probably have our legislative branches to be able to speak with our legislative delegation as it relates to that. Number two, as from day one, when I was elected, I talked about rehab. I made mention to our rehab program, Ms. Mayor, that our money on the table because criteria that is set, that the money is set forward by the government precludes a lot of things from happening, a lot of roadblocks. But I can tell you that rehab is I think the foremost way to go, because there is a lot of housing stock, but you have to go in and identify and putting a roof, putting paint on buildings, fencing, these type of things can help beautify communities, and it also give you a good housing stock again. Some of these homes that have been condemned or dilapidated can go in and be rehabbed versus, building a brand new home. So I'm hoping that this look at that as well. Again, I'm working with our city folks and our CRA to look at those issues as far as rehab, and I think that's a way to try to get some of this housing stock available to some of these folks for housing. I'll yield back.
Madam Chair.
I'll call on you just a second and recognize you, Ms. Burton. Ms. Liz? There you are. Okay. You're
Yeah,
recognized.
hi, Liz Strom. I don't have my full name here. I just, regarding the Tampa Park Apartments, just wanted to share this thought that I understand legally there's not much you can do to prevent an owner from selling their property and emptying it out. In this case, the owner is a nonprofit and they're making a ton of money on this. And so I'm just wondering whether the approach to take would be more political pressure on that nonprofit to use some of the proceeds from that sale to do well by the tenants. Because I don't know, I forget the exact sales price, but this nonprofit was set up expressly to run Tampa Park Apartments. They sold them. They're getting millions of dollars for that sale. What happens to that money?
Excellent question. I know a lot of us are watching what's happening there with great frustration. When we heard earlier back in August that there were deposits being dinged for a property that was going to be, demolished. I had a problem with just basically the course of action. So I know a lot of us are looking at this issue and working with. I've had a couple of conversations with some of our delegates to take a look at this circumstance to see if there's ways to avoid having things like this occur, where it appears as though there's a real disconnect between the landlord's behavior and the goal of renting a property, and how to make sure that it's provided safely for the tenant and all the tenants' rights are respected too. So I do know we're working on that. Ms. Burton, did you have a comment that you'd like to offer?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say this is I hear about policy and the inability to move forward because of these people being private landowners. But all of these people are local folks. They live here, they are business owners. The seller of the property and the person that is purchasing the property, they are all local people, okay? And it seems to me that at the end of the day, the people are being the pawn for, people that's gonna make a ton of money. And when they develop it, they're gonna make a ton of money on the back end as well. And somebody just have to have some more courage. And unfortunate, and I'm going to go to the city and say this, unfortunate that the city is not the moral compass right here, because we've been discussing this in council as a private citizen, going before the board saying this day is coming, this day is coming. I hear about rehab, all of this city rehab money. And when we look inside of East Tampa in particular, what we see is a lot of blue tarps still on people's homes, lack of accountability. And so now the people are the pond, and right down the road from this group of people is another group of Black folks that's going to be suffering and being forced to face the same thing. If it is true that Oakhurst is going to be sold next year, then where will those people go with a limited housing stock? And so I'm hoping, Chairwoman, you and other people that's in that inner circle would just start having these serious discussions with city leadership to make people more accountable and more humane in the way in which people are being treated. Because at the end of the day, whether I created a crime, I have some criminal history 20 years ago, I still expect to be treated as a human. I expect to be able to depend on my city government to come up with the resources to help me and my family move forward. And so when I hear people talking about policy, to me, that's just a backdoor excuse of cowardness of not wanting to make this stuff happen for our community in a meaningful way that everybody will be able to move out of Tampa Park with a sense of dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. I do appreciate it. And I understand your frustration. I've been screaming in the background for months. So Sherry Donahue, and then Ms. Sims will be recognized. Jackson Sims will be recognized. Sherry? You're muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Are there some things that we can do to circumvent the policies that are out there to keep these people from being able to move into, I'm staggering here. Every time I talk about this, I get sort of tongue-tied because it's like a chokehold on these folks. I know there are, we already said credit. There's a problem with their credit. Well, of course they have bad credit. I mean, come on, these people are, one cough syrup away from being out of work, or one flat tire away from being out of work, and then their credit suffers. There are requirements for having the deposit on a new apartment. They're not going to be able to save money to move into a new apartment. I mean, these are staggering policies. Are these coming down to us from the federal level? And is there anything we can do to waive some of these? I've shared with you before my own personal experience. I have a sister who Section 8 housing in Pinellas County, and she was not allowed to save the money for the deposit she needed on the apartment that she got thrown out of because they went private. I mean, it was like, it's a catch-22 here, luckily, we made it happen, okay? But there aren't too many people out there who have advocates who can do that. So what can we do to override those, if any? And you said, Ms. Howell said, it takes an act of Congress. Is that what we have to do? I mean, I realize that there are things in place for which look like a good reason, but at this point in this time in our history, those things are, they're just a chokehold on many of these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. And what you're describing is the predicament that the federal level of how our social systems work. It is, you can't, there's a wall that you have to get over. And if you get over that wall, climbing over it, you end up getting pushed back down. It is a very frustrating system. Once you're in that hole, it's almost impossible to get out of it. But in this particular case, these are local tenant laws that are state mandated frequently. And our ability to fund those individuals to move and how we can help or not help the landowner or the landlord per se, but make sure that we're helping the tenant. And that's something that I've been looking at, working with staff and with legal to see where we can, offer some influence, as Ms. Burton has asked for, in that conversation to try and help the citizens, and then ultimately address what Mr. Powell brought up, which is how do we make sure that bad players don't continue to harm citizens that are just trying to figure out how to find a place to live.
And Commissioner, if I could add on a couple of things. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Powell, for your comments, and Cherie and Ms. Burton as well. So it's a couple of things that we have done as well. One of the things is that with our low-income housing tax credits, we've moved to perpetuity. So whereas we were looking at terms of 20 and 30 years, now we're looking at perpetuity. We have not been so readily willing to forgive loans. And if you'll recall, we had our policy redone not long ago. And so we have moved forward and really kind of formalizing the process as well. And the other thing that we've done, and this has not been more of a policy issue, but it's been more of a practice issue, is that for all of the multifamily developments that are coming forth, 10% of those units are set aside for people emerging from homelessness. And so when it comes to multifamily and how people get placed and what the policies are, right? We have kind of two paths. We have an eligibility path, and then we have a suitability path. And so we, the government, we set the eligibility path based on rights, okay? And then the landlord sets the suitability path based on a certain set of consistent criteria so that the rights of those are not violated, so they don't get into fair housing issues. And so this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, where we need to have some serious conversations or even look at how we weight some of those programs in terms of suitability. Because if an eviction can keep you from accessing housing for the next 10 years, we're gonna be in a pickle.
Yep.
And so we got to start right now looking at the conversations that we need to have, not in terms of eligibility, but in terms of suitability, so that there is some path of redemption so that people can access housing, whether it just be like some credit stuff, whether there's a time limit that's placed on criminal history. We have to start having those conversations now about suitability and what's important and pressing for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Donahue, have you, okay. Ms. Jackson Sims, you're recognized.
In full disclosure, I want to say that early on in the Tampa Park process, I was involved as a federal regulator. So there are some things that I cannot talk about. but there are also things that I can. I want to circle back to the point that Ms. Burton was making and make sure that we don't lose track of what she was saying. She brought up two issues that have been tossed around in our community for over 20 years. One is the issue of residents of Tampa are residents of Hillsborough County. And until the county and the city begin working on affordable housing issues such as Tampa Park together, we will not be able to resolve the issues that are facing this community in the future. Ms. Burton is right. Whatever happens with Tampa Park, we have to step very cautiously because it is about to happen again with Oakhurst. And there are only so many dollars that we can throw at a problem to put a Band-Aid on it, because that's all we're doing. We're putting a Band-Aid on the situation until it happens to the next set of residents again. The bigger issue is for us to look at what's causing the problems and begin to address the issues causing the problems. One, if the mayor is committed to producing 10,000 units of affordable housing in her tenure, then the mayor ought to be willing to work with the Affordable Housing Committee on how we can maintain the units that we currently have and how we can ensure that residents that live in Tampa Park under her jurisdiction are given and afforded an opportunity to live somewhere else. I don't think this goes to the staff level. This has got to land on the desk of the mayor. To the issues of that Sherry brought up, and Sherry, I'm sorry, I don't see your last name on the screen, but the issues that she brought up are regulatory issues in nature. And for too many years, we've all backed away from touching the regulatory issues. And that's why we're where we are today, having the impacts on the residents of Tampa Park. Those regulatory issues can be changed, but somebody has to be willing to sit down and look at them and see the impact that it's having on community and go to the source of those that can fix it. We have representatives in Congress. We have people that are running for office on both sides now that are committing to do all kinds of things for housing American citizens. Now is the time for us to hold folks' feet to the fire. Section 8 has not had a comprehensive review since it went into existence. And the things that worked then do not work now. And Section 8 needs to be tweaked. The rule of you have a criminal history from 20 years ago was fine for early 1970, but it is not working in 2020. We can go to the federal government and to our representatives, and we have lobbyists that work for Hillsborough County, and ask to have these things included in our legislative agendas to be changed. But until we address the source of the problems, we're going to have Tampa Park, we're going to have Oakhurst, and we're going to have the next complex that's down the line, and we're going to continue to be faced with the people who are getting hurt and squeezed in the middle. Enough said.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, man. And thank you, Ms. Jackson Sims. I appreciate your sentiments completely. Councilman Goods, you're recognized.
Again, I've listened to everybody, and it goes back to what I've said from day one. To be a player in the game, sometimes you have to have a different strategy to win to get to the finish line. And Ms. Jackson is totally correct. Certain things preclude local governments and counties from doing certain things. We've got to get with our legislative lobbyists, just like she said, to fight to change some of these bad practices. She's right. Maybe back in those days, they were good. But in this day and age, they're very bad. You can't hold a 20-year criminal misdemeanor or felony over somebody's head who needs help. These credit issues, a lot of these things need to be changed. And I'm glad she is a part of this committee at this time and wants to bring up the facts. The facts are sometimes local governments and counties cannot move the muscle. We need that federal legislation. We need that state legislation to be able to move. And I'm willing to be a part of that to help talk to our state officials and federal officials to look at changing the rules of the game. I yield back, and thank you again, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Councilman Goods. I appreciate that. Well, let me do this, and then if there's no other future business items to discuss, I'm going to ask staff and our legal counsel to review those hoops that Ms. Jackson Sims referenced when it comes to barriers to stability or barriers to entry to affordable housing within our area. And if we could work with our legislative delegation to make requests or recommendations to our federal and state delegation, we should be putting those items together now. So Ms. Takemori, if you could assist us in working with Ms. Howell and then maybe bring some ideas back for discussion at the November meeting, then we can start making those phone calls as our state delegation goes into session. Federal goes in a little later, but doesn't hurt to get started as quickly as possible. Is that something that Ms. Takemori, you can assist us with?
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Goods?
I would ask just to add on that if you're making a motion about it, is that also that she get with the other local city governments as well. Sometimes it's better to put more heads together to come up with an idea or a plan or strategy. So I'd ask if you're making a motion, if you would add that as a friendly amendment to making sure she gets with all the other local governments in the county area, so we're on the same page.
I'm not really making a motion. I'm asking staff to bring something back to us. I'm not sure that needs a that needs a vote, but I do agree with you. Excuse me. I do agree that we'd be good to work with municipal legal staff in evaluating how they may be differently applied, whether it be county and or city. Does that address your issue, sir?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Are there any other future business items that we might want to address in the future? Seeing none, Ms. Howell, are you done? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Seeing none and not hearing any more, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Commissioner. Have a good day.
Thank you. I appreciate all your help.
You're welcome. Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.